Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Bunkavai here for MMOBomb.com. Today I'm going to do another first impression gameplay video. This time we're taking a look at Wizardry Online, a new 3D MMORPG published by Sony Online Entertainment, but developed by a game company called GamePot, which is located in Japan. Now, the Wizardry Online franchise itself has actually been around for quite a long time, since 1981 actually, on the Apple II. It was one of the granddaddy RPGs that actually introduced the grid-based dungeon crawling gameplay that we see today, or an evolved version rather that we see today. Now, Wizardry Online, this version of it I should say, is in fact of course a live action kind of dungeon crawler MMORPG, no longer grid based, but it does retain a lot of the D&D style mechanics such as permadeath and also stat allocation, as well as race locking as far as classes. Some classes are better with certain races and vice versa. So let's go ahead and create a character. As you can see, I already have a character created waiting for us to actually explore the land of Follow Port. But first I'll show you the character creator so you guys can get an idea of how that works. There's several classes and several races for you to choose from. So there are 4 races. There are the humans, the elves, the dwarfs, and the porkul. The humans are of course your standard humans, nothing really spectacular about them. They're proficient in everything, they can do everything, all the classes rather. And the classes, by the way, are the thief, mage, priest, and as well as the warrior. Warrior being the tank. Is kind of the holy trifecta again, where you have the priest, which is the healer, the mage, which is of course range DPS, the thief, which is the sneaky class, disarms traps, is also, melee DPS. And then you've got the warriors as well, which are the tanks, which I believe I may have said, I don't know. But anyways, if we continue on here, we can look at the different classes. Each of these classes have different stat attributions over here on the left, so they will start off with different amounts of HP, which means that different HP and MP, I should say, which means that certain, of course, are better at certain classes. So for example, the elves are ill-suited for fighter class, but they are very good at anything that's intellect based, healing, DPS, if you're a mage. But let's go ahead and make a dwarf here. I'll show you guys here that we can make a dwarf. Now if you look at the female dwarf, it's not really much like a dwarf, looks more like a ram-headed little girl, but yes, this is a dwarf. She's got thick thighs and a really short skirt, but alright, let's go ahead and make a male dwarf. Oh yeah, by the way, the porkul, look at these guys here, little fat little kids, just roly-polies. One thing I should mention is, if this game reminds you of any JRPGs from like the PlayStation 2 era, that is because the creators are fans, or number one, they are from Japan, and number two, they did kind of use that same kind of style, or even the dialogue in the game itself is kind of scrolling combat or scrolling text. We run up to someone and you have like a group discussion with them back and forth about the current storyline, etc. So it is very much like a JRPG in that respect. So if you like that style of play, then you'll definitely enjoy the kind of atmosphere this game puts on. So of course up here we can just put our name, and then we can choose our alignment. Now certain alignments allow you to better do certain classes. So for example, neutral characters are ill-suited to become priests, but lawful characters very good at choosing priests or fighters. Now you do have to choose an alignment, and of course if I choose chaotic, I can still be a priest or fighter, but I can also then be a thief. And if I choose neutral, I can be a fighter or a thief. Now if I am chaotic, I'm pretty sure I will be less good at being a priest as if I was being a lawful, because I use, the holy magic. At no point though can a dwarf, at least a male dwarf, be a mage. In fact, it looks like I would need a total of 8 intellect points in order for me to be a mage. You see I have 3 here, so I'd have to increase this to 3, and then I would be able to be a mage. So it's ill-suited to begin with, but you can still tailor your character to force yourself to be a certain class. You just have to give up some of your bonus points. So in this case though, if I wanted to be a fighter, I already have, the needed points here. As you can see, then it shows me my default skills, and then I can choose to put more points in here. Also boost my vitality if I'm going to be more of a tank, and then I can also boost things like dexterity, which is like range damage. Agility is receiving damage, range, and receive critical hit rate. Intellect, of course, is your mana, and this affects the magic skills for priests, their ability to heal, I guess. And this is, of course, your luck. So with a strength-based hero, of course, you just put a couple points in strength and vitality, generally what you would want. Now, because I'm not going to actually create this character, we're not going to go through the full process of going through the introduction, because a lot of the introductory quests are in fact just say go here, find out where the vendor is, go find out where the blacksmith to repair your gears, etc. Now one last thing I forgot to mention before we move on is the different attributes, of course, for character customization. On the right hand side you can change your face, and unfortunately, although the faces themselves, that face is really The faces themselves may be very animated themselves, but you can't change individual things like eyebrows, ears, eyes, etc., which is a little bit unfortunate. You can change things, of course, like the hair, so you can change the different style of hairs that you have, as well as the color of hairs. So you can make your character at least a little bit different. No size or body options. This is very much, you know, strictly D&D based. You know, you're an elf, you're a mage. This is what you're going to look like. Or sorry, elf or a dwarf rather. So let's go ahead and jump into our character. I've already on this character bypassed the majority of the beginning quest area or quest. So let's go quest. So let's go ahead and go into channel 1 since that channel is full and check the game out. Now I also went on, and earlier in the week I went on a press tour with Sony Online Entertainment. So after we do some of the introductory stuff here, I will be able to show you guys a little bit of the higher level dungeons, just as far as the complexity, because they are very intricate and they are very interesting to look at because they do not follow a typical linear path. Alright, so now that we're in here, we've got to go and find this guy on the map in the top right hand corner. As you can see there, that is where we must go. And I know the characters run a little bit funky. They also jump a little funky. Let's go ahead and go around here. Got my skill bars on the bottom as well as my experience bar. I'm going to go ahead and talk to this guy here. Now you can lock on by kind of right clicking it. But as you can see here, we have the text down below. And in fact, if I actually shut up for a second, you'll be able to hear the music. And the music reminds me of something like Kingdom Hearts or just like those kind of overworld exploratory areas in those JRPGs. And just listen to the music and tell me what you think about it. It's kind of like that orchestra music. So I'm going to take this trial, by the way. This trial actually finishes my training area, and I believe it actually is going to transport me, yes, into the first dungeon. So you get the first impression of the dungeons here. I'm just this lowly guy, lowly mage. In fact, this elf mage is what I've chosen to be. I have got a flame arrow, and I've got a poison gas, which causes the target to become poisoned. And this one, of course, sets them on fire. So let's see if I can talk to this guy. Battle instructor, what do you have to say to me? I'll explain about battles, well as secondhand knowledge from Master Garnoff. Alright here, so what would you like to ask? So we can talk about HP, MP, OD. Now OD is probably a good thing to talk about because that's how you use your skills. OD shows your ability to perform various actions. It gradually increases when your attacks hit. It is necessary when using physical attack skills or dashing. The upper value is fixed at 200 and not a bit more. Alright, so for me, I'm not really a melee kind of attacker, so I will in fact use MP to cast the majority of my spells. So the rest comes with experience in actual battles. For attacking the monsters around you, that'd be the fastest way. So it is kind of directional based combat where you will pivot a little bit, but you can lock onto a target as well. Now I can grab this by hitting F, and then I can actually use my arrow keys here to open the door. So it does involve, you know, kind of working together with your teammates in order to move forward. So let's go ahead and move up. Now, like I said before, using a thief is something that you kind of need in later levels in the game, because of the fact that thieves will be able to see traps on the ground, and traps will do a lot of damage to you. So you will need to disarm them. So as you can see, he's talking about the traps right now. So I'm Cerbicus. I like to give people advice. Okay, nice to know. Would you guys like me to do this voice more? There are a number of traps like the one you just triggered. So this is one of the things I talk about, where the text is a little bit slow. You actually can't skip it very fast, which is why I skipped a lot of this just to get you guys where you are now, where you can kind of see the dungeon-based area. It is very much like it takes its time to showcase the text and the dialogue and the interaction between your character and the people in the world. And at some points, it is very necessary to pay attention. I remember during the press tour, they mentioned that it is very important to pay attention to what some of the characters say, especially in dungeons, certain dungeons, because they will tell you what traps to look out for, or what there are puzzles in the different dungeons that you will have to do as a team or as a group, and you will have to pay attention to what people say, what certain people in the dungeon say, in order for you to figure out the traps or figure out the dungeons. And right here, what it's actually talking about is when you die, you become a soul. And once you're dead, you have to go to a certain statue in order to resurrect yourself. Now, the more you die, the less chance you can resurrect yourself successfully. What that means is, eventually, there'll be a high chance that you will perma-die, so you will not be able to resurrect completely at all. You will lose that character. So how do you get around this? Well, you can offer up an item. Well, number one, you don't die, but you can offer up an item to the statue to kind of increase your chance a little bit, like 2 or 3%, to kind of build your way back out of the death scenario. And then also you can just kind of bite the bullet and just lose 10% on that character. So as you continue to level up, you notice there I just died. As you continue to level up, and if you die a lot, you're going to have a harder and harder chance to get to max level because you have died so many times that if you're trying to clear a very hard dungeon, you may not resurrect at all. So alright, so now I'm in this dungeon form here. You'll notice in the top left hand corner, these are my revival rates. Now if I was to lose one of these, I would lose 10% of my revival rate. And the way you would actually lose that is sometimes, even in the soul world, there are basically like these reapers. And a reaper will be floating around this area, and if he touches you, he will remove one of these, essentially removing 10% of your chance to actually be revived, which would be terrible. There's my poor body. So I'm going to come up here to this guy, I'm going to examine it. And as you can see, I can get a revival rate 100%, no gold. Of course, you have to use gold to revive normally, but right now this is a trial. So I can revive 100%. Now, if I wanted to, I could offer up an item here, and that would increase my chance. But because I'm at 100%, there's no need to actually do that. I can simply say revive, and I will get my revision. So if you fail to revive from ash, your character will be lost and cannot be used again. All items, including cash items, will be lost as well. Continue revival. So we're going to go ahead and revive. Now, one thing I should mention, if you revive, or if you do not get to a stone in time and someone uncovers your body, they can steal your items. One thing I need to mention is, in the dungeons, which you'll see later on when I show you the higher level dungeons, in the dungeons themselves, you can actually, it is open world. It is not a instance based dungeon. So everybody can be in a dungeon. There can be several people in a dungeon at once besides your party. And if they choose so, they can openly PK you guys and kill you and try to steal your gear, or steal parts of your gear. Now, these people are labeled as bandits, and once we get back to the main town, I can show you what happens to them. But just so you know, as you can see, having this sort of weird dynamic where you're in a dungeon with other people, but yet, let's go ahead and talk to this guy. You get into a dungeon with your own party, but yet people come in there and openly PK you at the same time. It really creates this risky sort of dynamic where, hey, a strange power prevents you going forward. What do I have to do? Let's come this way here. So we got to fight this guy. All right, so here's our first combat. Now I can lock onto him by right clicking, and then simply I can hit 2, I believe. Oh yeah, so I need to bring out by hitting my middle mouse button, I'm able to, let's go ahead and equip my actual weapon. By hitting my middle mouse button, I actually unsheath. You have to unsheath your weapon, because in town you can unsheath your weapon too. And when you unsheath your weapon, what you essentially do is indicate, hey, I could possibly be attacking people. So let's go. I've gone ahead and poisoned him now, although I don't really know how a zombie can be poisoned, seeing as he is already dead. But yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and finish this guy off. And he should burn to death. Alright, so now he's fallen down. And normally, if he had gear, I can go over top of him. And of course, pick up his gear. So let's see if we can continue down this way. Now, so yeah, you have the interesting dynamic of having players being able to PK you openly. Let's go ahead and pick this up. The fountain's brimmed with water, has enough for 5 more drinks. So I can actually recover my mana here. So you do, there is no sort of resting period. Level increased to 2. Awesome. So if I open my skill tree here, I can show you guys my skills. So I can put down these 2 paths. We have Witchcraft and Aggravate. Aggravate, which essentially is the poison gas, or I can go for more direct damage. I'm going to go for poison gas because that seems interesting here. So I'm going to go ahead and spend a skill in there. And I can spend 1 more in there as well. Now, the more points I spend in these, you'll see I'll have class specialties. You'll see that once I hit level 4, my max magic attack will increase, my max MP will increase at level 7. So you have these kind of like standards where your character will have these kind of milestone increases in their attributes, which is actually pretty cool. Down here you also see your loot time, your max weight. Oh yeah, there's a weight system in the game, so when you bring up in your bag here, you can only hold a certain amount of weight. You'll see 4.4, and if you start to try to carry more than that, what you'll end up happening is you'll see this keeps increasing my HP, etc. You'll start to be slowed down, or you can't do anything. You do have to get rid of a lot of that. So luck loss 1 became 5. So the more I level up, the more certain attributes increase while other ones decrease. Now, while I'm in this dungeon here, if I was to max out on my experience, it doesn't actually continue to level me up. So for example, my soul, I have to bring up my soul. So we have the soul, of course, in the instance of the soul that when you resurrect, you lose 10% of that and you cannot resurrect. But there's also another instance of it, essentially, where at certain intervals you have to upgrade your soul. Now, what do you do when you upgrade your soul? What do you? Oh, by the way, there are these jumping puzzles you have to watch out for. So I'm gonna go ahead and sheath this. Now, why did I sheath that? Now, if it's unsheathed and I try to jump over that, I'll kind of backstep by hitting spacebar. Spacebar would backstep me. Now, what I can do here is, I believe if I hold shift, I'll be able to run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run and jump across. So I have to sheath my weapon and then run and jump across. There we go. So it is sort of like a platformer as well. It's very much like a old school JRPG, platforming dungeon style gameplay, except in this case you normally would have other friends as well to do it with. Of course, this is just the intro tutorial. So the branch of destiny. So now, alright, so what are we dealing with here? Well, there's a giant cockroach on the left, and what do we have here is a sort of trap. So there are several traps here. Let's say we don't want to go that way. I can just go ahead and turn around this corner. I gotta unsheath my weapon again. Cast various spells on this guys. Oh, he interrupted. So I can use my spacebar, as you can see, to backspace backwards, but it actually does use my OD. So we do have to make sure not to use it too many times, or else I won't be able to do anything else. So I've burnt that little cockroach, or that big cockroach, to a crisp. Let's see if we can actually get around the different various traps. Any traps here? Now, normally if there was a trap, you'd see like a little exclamation, but there's not. In fact, there's a chest. Now I can try to disarm the trap that's in the chest. It could possibly kill me, or I could give up. What I'm going to go ahead and do is disarm it, and poison gas is what happened. So now I've been poisoned by this unfortunate gas, which will permeate and do a lot of damage to me for a lot of seconds. Now, how can I, is there anything I can grab here that will not kill me? Nope, I'm just going to go ahead and die. So here you have it. This is the introductory sort of dungeon, and I'm already dying in this dungeon. Now, why am I dying in this dungeon? It may be sort of a learning experience for me to basically learn exactly how you must go about. Let's see, can I get in this? Nope. Gotta find a statue to actually revive. It's a learning experience, basically. So it tells you that, hey, some of these are really bad to open. Thief class is obviously the best class to open that up without triggering the trap, because as you can see, when you trigger the trap, it will kill you. We're not talking about a little bit of damage here. We're talking about quite a lot. And in fact, when I was going through this is the wrong way. When I was going through the press tour, that is one of the things that developers really wanted to stress, is that this is going to be a hard MMO. This is not meant to be an easy MMO. In fact, at the they mentioned that the game, it's already been released. Let's go ahead and just revive here 100%. It's already been released. Let's see, can't even get around this. I like the little cinematic though. It's already been released in Japan, but no one is in fact max level yet, because of the fact that it's so hard to get there sometimes. So it is really a game for those who really want that sort of hardcore experience. By the way, the monsters do respawn, so you do have to make sure that you don't backtrack too much, because if you do backtrack enough, you'll find out that monsters respawn. You have to work your way through all of them all over again. Let's come around here. And now I have to try to focus and not die, now that I know that this introductory little dungeon is very difficult. Let's come around here. I was looking for some type of potion or whatever, but you were meant to die. I mean, it lasted for 20 seconds and it took so much of my health off at once. It was pretty crazy. Alright, so go ahead and kill this guy yet again. And of course I have to cast, I have to unsheath my weapon and then cast my abilities. My 2 spell is my fastest, and he actually interrupts him as well. So you really have to make sure you are pretty far back. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. I'm just going to use my 1 skill here. I mean, it's only doing like 1, 2, 3. I'm like beating the crap out of him. As you can see, my elves not too good at melee combat. We're much more ranged fighters. Finally poked that guy to death. And let's go ahead and come down this way, see what we can find. So I no longer could open that chest, or rather I did open that chest. Is there anything in it? Nope, because the chest destroyed everything inside when I released the trap. Alrighty, so let's come down here. Up here we just got different little emoticons to actually use. Now I have to admit, choosing a range, magical ranged class for this little introduction to the game. May have been a bad idea, simply for the fact that it is very unforgiving. Alright, I gotta cast my best spell first, the one that actually target's too far away. Alright, come on. Come on, alright. Dang it, come on. So you gotta really think out your attacks here. You can't just willy-nilly walk through this dungeon. You really have to make sure you really plan out who you're attacking and what you're doing. You know, of course, normally you'd have a team to do this together. But even on your own, some of these dungeons, while you can just complete them on your own, it would be better to do them as a team. Because as you can see, certain things can be pretty difficult. Now, granted, I'm only like level, what, 2 or 3? But even still, imagine, you know, as you level up, different dungeons, much harder. Much harder enemies, more than just simply, you know, zombies and little cockroaches. Alright, so let's go ahead and move up here. The developers also mentioned that they really want gear to be somewhat difficult to obtain, so you do have to work for your gear in the game, and you know, keeping that gear is definitely just as important, because if you think about it, you're going to be working against players, people who have, alright, did you finally die yet? People who could possibly PK you for an item that you worked really hard to find. And they mentioned that some of the QA testers that were playing the game talked about certain items as if they were their children, because of how rare they were and how precious they were and how much they didn't want to lose them. Alright, so this guy should die here. I don't want to waste too much mana. Let's fire one more. There we go. So he goes down. Now, let's see if we can just scoot by these guys really quickly here. No, I will have to kill one more, but I should be able to get out through the door. So like I said before, with the soul system, what you have to do is you have to make sure that you keep leveling it up, because if you don't level it up, it'll fall behind, and if it falls behind, you won't keep leveling up in a dungeon. What it means is you'll keep retaining the experience you gain in the dungeon, but you won't be able to use any of that experience towards putting towards new levels until you get back in the dungeon and unlock that ability with a new soul unlock, or a soul increase, I guess you could say. So let's go ahead and open that up. And then I finally get to the end here. Like, man, this is so hard. Alright, come back to me again when the 3 hearts become 1. Man, it's like this super complicated dungeon. Alright, so this is introducing the next area of mechanics. Let's go ahead. A drawing of a dragon with outstretched wings. You touch the slate and hear the echoes of something moving in the distance. Oh, man. That doesn't sound good. Maybe I gotta do that 3 times? 3 hearts become 1, you know? Alright, this place is really spooky as well. So as you can see, these dungeons are really elaborate, and you can almost get lost in them, because certain areas are very complicated. And not really sure if we'll even get time to show you guys some of the higher level stuff today. What was that noise? Oh god, slug! Green slime monster! What are you doing, green slime? Can I... No, I need to... I keep forgetting to unsheath my weapon. Alright, so I want to... There we go. So let's go ahead and move back here so he doesn't get me. So what I mentioned is we might not actually even get a chance to show off the higher level stuff, because it's really important to show you guys all these different unique mechanics that are in the game. Now, one thing I can mention also is that you're not limited to just one class per character. Now, what I mean by that... Alright, finally killed the little slime. What I mean by that is you can at any time change professions. Almost like Final Fantasy XI. You can change your type of class. In fact, if it's just like Final Fantasy XI, you change your type of class on a level that went up independently. And then you can actually, you'll lose everything but your basic or your standard skills that you've accrued. But let's see, the 3 hearts become 1, and 1 being gain endless power. You may advance beyond the curtain of light. Yes. But you'll be able to retain some of your abilities, but you'll lose a lot of the other stuff. And you'll be able to retain some of your items as well in sort of like a shared bank area. And what this allows you to do is level up independent classes and combine skills. So you can have a priest warrior, which is somewhat like a paladin, or you could have a mage thief. You can combine them to kind of create your own unique class, you know. But you have to start back at level 1, same character, but access to some of your skills already, and just work your way out, grind those levels on that. So there is definitely a lot of replayability even in the early level stuff, and even with the same character, because you don't have to start a brand new character to level up another class. You can simply use the same character and in fact combine that class with a separate class available in the game. So you can have, whoa, I just like beam me out of here, Scotty. Where did I go? Alright, so it looks like I've come back to the new adventurer. I've completed my task, new adventurer. What can you show me? So now I can finally pass through the frogs. This is like a grand trial area. I think I must be the dragon placard rather. Take the wooden plates. I'm good at, wait, I got a plate out of that? That's all I got? Alright, so let's see what's happening. You hear a voice coming from somewhere. So this is like the cinematic thing that I talked about before. We have these kind of cutscenes with the text that comes down below. It kind of explains the story and moves the story forward. So I can finally exit out, and I finished these trials that allowed me to become this great warrior, and explore these dungeons. This is, of course, a mature MMORPG, so there is dying, etc. Now, I mentioned before that there's open PK. People can play, kill you in certain areas, and hopefully now that we're able to exit out of this, did it say? It said how to get out, didn't it? And I wasn't paying quite much attention. Let's come out here. How do I get out again? Oh, crap. Talking too much now. So you said there's let's see, we can actually hear. I can actually just look up through this roof. So you got to pay attention. Let's see. Anything here? No, this is just the head towards the exit, return to town. Use the stairs behind you to exit. Alright. So I can return to town now. Whew. So you do have to pay attention, or else you're just going to forget where you exactly have to go, and should be able to exit out of this way. Finishing this out, finally. So that actually explains pretty much the majority of the interesting mechanics. That guy just got hit in the head with what looks to be a pan or some kind of shield. And as you can see there, some traps will affect multiple people other than just one individual. So you do have to make sure you don't hit all of them at once. Basically let the thief go out, try to detect them and disarm them before moving away. Again, very much traditional D&D style mechanics. Hey, wait a minute. Just kidding. You're okay, ha 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 ha. Alright. You've been down in the dungeon way too long. Am I gonna stab you? Come on, stab him. Stab him. Looks like I pushed the wrong button. Man, my guy is uptight. He does not take crap from anybody. Made one joke, this guy pulled his weapon on him. Wow. But it's alright, he only hits him for 1 damage. He's just a puny little elf, so that guy has nothing to worry about. It's like a paper scratch. Alright, so let's go ahead and open this up here. Open this door. I'm not sure if these can be done with multiple people to make it faster. Let's go ahead and open that up and see if we can actually exit out of the dungeon now. So give driving card. Should be able to get out of here to exit and see if we can actually finish this quest. Hopefully, yes. So I talked to this person and we should be able to finalize our little quest here. And as you can see, another cutscene. So yes, there are quite a few cutscenes. Now, when I talked to the developers, I kind of said, there's a lot of cutscenes, guys. What are we going to do about this? There's a lot of people who don't care about the story. And they said that they are working at implementing a way where you guys can just quickly cut through these cutscenes if you don't want to watch them. And you just want to quickly move through it as quickly as possible. Quickly. And continue on with the gameplay. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call this little adventure on my character for now. What I'm going to actually do is cut here in the actual gameplay, and then we're going to showcase a little bit of the higher level stuff just to show you guys what the higher level dungeon looks like, what type of enemies you're fighting, and just in general what that area looks like. So I'll cut to that with my little YouTube magic, and I'll see you guys there. So this is a level 20-ish area dungeon. I myself is a level 20 warrior on this account. The developer with me is at level 37 priest. But we are slightly souped up for this area, so you'll find that the bosses and the enemies we fight in this small little clip will be a little bit low or easy to kill, and that is because for the developer preview, they did want to make sure that we can actually see everything without horribly dying. Now, this is probably one of the best examples I could show you guys of what I mean by unique and dynamic style of map creation. What I mean by that is, this is not your typical dungeon. You know, this is a multi-tiered, almost Zelda-like dungeon where you have these different layers. This kind of reminds me of Water Temple. We have these different layers here and different enemies on different layers. And in this case, you really have to mind your positioning. This guy can, as you can see, knock you back. He can even knock you off or stun you. So in this case, we are a little bit higher level. We are a little bit overpowered, so we're easily able to kill him. But the developer did mention that oftentimes, pretty much in every case, people do get knocked off, and if you get knocked off, you're going to fall to the very bottom, and you're going to end up dying. You're going to have to find your way back to the resurrection stone, possibly lose that 10% resurrection and start over. So you do need to mind your positioning. Even if you're, say, a rogue, you will have to actually get behind characters to use a lot of your skills and to actually take advantage of your backstabbing, you know, your actual critical abilities. So you do need to mind your position. The game is very much about positioning and knowing your role. They mentioned that certain classes are just going to be required at certain points in the game because you need a rogue to get around traps, or you need a priest to heal your class up, or your party up rather. You need a tank to kind of shoulder the brunt force damage, so it does rely on that holy trinity a lot more. The dungeons themselves have all these different pathways that you can take, and this really opens it up both for parties to actually explore different areas, as well as you can see, there's a player that just ran by. If you're a PKer, you also can use these pathways to kind of hit and run guerrilla tactic style, you know, do damage, try to take out a player, take their stuff really quickly, and then escape through another area, the labyrinth style of dungeon this is. Again, all open world, which makes it a really unique play. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of the higher level area. One thing to make note of is that you didn't actually get to see in this is once you've actually completed a dungeon, you've reached the end, usually there is a boss that you fight, so you will actually have that classic style dungeon crawler boss fight at the end that will give you, a reward, percentage of how well you did, etc. But these dungeons do take a long time to do. We're in these dungeons for over an hour easy, so they're not really quick, grindy dungeons. This is something like a dungeon you would expect in an MMORPG, and you do this a lot. So it does really focus on teamwork, and although you can do these dungeons alone, it's best to do them as a team. But overall, that's been my first look for Wizardry Online. I hope you guys enjoyed this first look. I'll see you guys next time. This is Spunkify. Spunkify out. Later, guys.